Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. For those of you who have never caught the live before, my name is Jewel. I am a recovering drug addict of 8 years. Every day I go live with my brother-in-law Joe, who just celebrated 18 months sober at the end of December. We're going to read the gist for today. And then if anybody has any, anything they want to talk about or topics or anything like that, we could talk about that as well. Just going to invite a couple people on. Hello, hello.
Good afternoon.
Nobody on with us, just you and I. Trying to invite some people. Will you share this in our group and whatever other groups you're in?
Already did.
Already?
Yep.
Hello. I keep thinking it's morning. That's why I don't like to sleep in late, because then there's my whole day off. I feel like instead of 1:30, it should be 11:30. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. So, I think, Joe, I would like to start reading this part, what I read yesterday at the beginning, because I really like it. So I think I want to start doing that before I read the actual one.
I can't see it. Just read.
Okay, so just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery, living and enjoying life without the use of drugs. Just for today, I will have faith in someone in NA who believes in me and wants to help me in my recovery. Just for today, I will have a program. I will try to follow it to the best of my ability. Just for today, through NA, I will try to get a better perspective on my life. Just for today, I will be unafraid. My thoughts will be on my new associations, people who are not using and who have found a new way of life. So long as I follow that way, I have nothing to fear. Hey, Zesta. So today's just for today is recovery at home. We can enjoy our families in a new way and may become a credit to them instead of an embarrassment or a burden. Basic text, page 104. We're doing great in recovery, aren't we? We go to a meeting every day, we spend every evening with our friends in the fellowship, and every weekend we dash off to a service workshop. But if things are falling to pieces at home, we're not doing so great after all. We expect our families to understand. After all, we're not using drugs anymore. Why don't they recognize our progress? Don't they understand how important our meetings, our service, and our involvement with the fellowship are? Our families will not appreciate the change NA is working in our lives unless we show them. If we rush off to a meeting the same way we rushed off to drugs, what has changed? If we continue to ignore the needs and desires of our partners and children, failing to accept our responsibilities at home, we aren't practicing these principles in all our affairs. We must live the program everywhere we go and everything we do. If we want the spiritual life to be more than a theory, we have to live it at home. When we do this, the people we share our lives with are sure to notice the change and be grateful that we have found NA. Just for today, I will take my recovery home with me.
That's why I talk about life after
I was
recovery.
just about to say that. I feel like we talk about this often.
That's why I spend so much time talking about your life has to move on
Right.
at a certain point.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not when you just forget about the work or you forget about, your maintenance and keeping up with it. But, if you're just always chasing a meeting,
Right.
then there's something else you need to work on with inside yourself to figure out how do I get past this phase? You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Because you haven't changed the behavior. You've just changed what you were going to, I guess.
And if you've got a lot of sober time or a lot of clean time and you're still chasing down the meetings, then you know there there's probably something else that you need to do. There's probably something else that you need to work on. You need to work on that shit inside that we talk about. You know, the the drug abuse and the alcohol abuse. That's just a part of it.
I
That's not what your real problem
I
is.
feel like I know for me when I first went like when I first got out of jail the first go around, I was like addicted going to the meetings. You know what I mean? Like, and I wasn't necessarily
Right,
going for the recovery aspect of it. I was more of, this was my freedom to get out of the house. This was my way of being able to go out and not be monitored. You know what I mean? So for me, it was always like I had to go, and I really didn't have to go. I just had the urge to go, like I had the urge to go use drugs. So,
right. And everybody that knows me and has been following me, I'm not a meeting
right.
guy. Never go, never went. To be serious. Um, like I told you guys before, I grew up in the meetings. So when I was a child, before I even thought about drinking, I went to meetings all the time because I went with my dad because he was an alcoholic and he used to go to meetings. And when he would pick me up on the weekend, if he was trying to do good and he wasn't fucking up, then I would tag along. So um, and like I told you guys before, as I got older, I seen a lot of people that were running the meetings that I've ran into at the liquor store when I was out there drinking, and I've seen at a restaurant drinking beer, and it's just like um, I realized through my experiences that I want something more out of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just not a meeting guy. I just don't get a lot out of the meetings because it's too loose. Like you could get a speaker up there, a guest speaker show up, and I've talked about it before, where he gets up there and he gets on a rant
Yeah.
and gets sidetracked, and he ends up just bragging about how much drugs he's done and
Right.
all the crazy stories
Right.
and how gangster he is and all the shit he did. And like, bro, I'm not trying to hear that shit. Part of it is a big part of, being addicted to the drugs and the alcohol is being more
Lifestyle.
so for me, addicted to the
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle. You know what I mean? Being addicted to that rush and that unpredictable atmosphere, because you never know what might happen.
Right.
You never know what might jump off or what might go on. So being young, it was exciting for me. And then, once I got older, um, I just wanted to be drama free. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want a whole lot of in my life. I just want to stay to myself, be around my family and, level up, so to say.
Yeah.
Um, so there comes a point in time, and I'm not saying you can't go to meetings. I don't care if you've been 20 years sober or 20 years clean. If you still want to go to meetings, that's cool. But there's life after the meetings. You got to make sure you're doing that shit. You're working on yourself. You're
Mhm.
making amends with your family. You're working towards a better career. You're working towards, financial gains, and you're trying to, um, go past a certain point. You don't want to just get stuck in that meeting phase
Right.
where you don't want to be doing the 90 for 90 your whole life is
Right.
basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And a lot of
Um,
people that I know
so
that have like a couple years or more clean, generally speaking, they only go to like anniversary meetings. Like if somebody they know is celebrating a big anniversary or their home group, they don't go to meetings 90 and 90 forever. I mean, generally that's only suggested your first 90 days.
right, and I remember hearing stories. Like I told you guys before, my grandfather was a big time alcoholic, and back in his day, the meetings weren't really a big thing yet. So in our area, him and my stepdad's grandfather, small town, so everybody knows each other. But um, him, my grandfather, and my stepdad's grandfather, um, when they were young and they were first getting into it, they were holding meetings in their house. They were just doing it in their house. And but as my grandfather got older and got more into it, he didn't go anymore. He worked on tractors and worked on lawnmowers and
Kept so
you know
busy.
flip small engine stuff. He would buy something that people said was junk and didn't work, and he fix it up and sell
Yeah.
it. That was his little hustle, and that's what he spent his time doing, and that was his life after the
Yeah.
meetings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That found something to sink his time into that he enjoyed, that made him kept his mind off of it, and while keeping his mind off of it, he was being productive
Right.
at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you kind of want to not everybody likes meetings. Paul, you said you don't like meetings. I don't like meetings. I've went, but I've never gotten anything out of it.
Yeah.
Um, I I just get more out of, doing what I know works for me. And
Yeah.
like we talked about before, what works for one doesn't work for the next, doesn't work for the next. So everybody is on their own path. So if meetings work for you, I'm never going to tell you not to go to a meeting, or not to keep
Yeah.
going if they work for you. Um, you'll even hear us say, can you get to a meeting? Because in the beginning, or when you're fragile and you're on the fence, that meeting might keep you on the right side of the fence.
Yeah.
So I would say it's more of like maintenance and an emergency thing. But um, the point is, if you guys, if all you're doing for your sobriety and all you're doing for your recovery is just going to meetings, 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 and you're not doing any self work, you're not working on yourself. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
not working on your character flaws. You're not working on, hey, have I brought that same asshole over with me into my clean
Yeah.
time or into my recovery? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? If you're not working on any of that and you're just going to meetings and you're treating the meetings like, the high school lunch
That
table,
was me.
and you're
That was
just going
me.
for the gossip girl circle, or the you know the bragging, the dick measuring circle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
like you're not really getting anything out of it.
Yeah.
You're missing the point.
That's probably why I didn't stay
You're
clean the
chasing
first time.
right. You're chasing the social. You're chasing a social scene. You're not really chasing
Right.
recovery. I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure you're being careful about, the things you're doing, and pay attention to the details. If you're getting something out of the meeting, then I would say keep going.
Yeah.
But if you know deep in your heart, like, I've surpassed this part, like, I'm really not getting anything new out of this, and I realize that I'm here more so to chase guys or chase girls, and that's all I'm really getting out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Deborah said,
Yeah.
Deborah says, I get more from reading my Bible than going to meetings. And it's all on what works for you, you know? Everything works differently for everybody. You know, the same way I got clean isn't going to be the same way you got clean. I know your mother didn't really like going to the NA meetings because she felt like the NA meetings were real clicky, you know, and she wasn't a clicky person. So if you're not one of those people that fits into the clique, then that's not going to make you comfortable. You're not going to get anything out of the meeting because you're there, you know, you're too focused on that. Paul said I go to recovery church and like one meeting a week, and that's probably what works best for you. I know that in our area we have a few like celebrate recovery groups. But when I was in a recovery house, there was a church nearby. I think it was like Mountain Zion or something. It was a non-denominational church, and they did this huge like celebrate recovery thing every Friday night. And they had daycare, and they would have different speakers come, and they would have little like snacks and things, and it was an awesome experience. Um, James says 18 years clean, and I go to meetings to try and help others. And I feel like once you get to a certain point, I feel like that's like, for example, the people that I know that still go to meetings that have years clean, that's why they go, you know, which is another good reason to
What you're
go.
what you're doing is considered service work,
Right.
and that's part of recovery. That's part of what I'm trying to say to the younger people too, is because um you're doing something new with this. So you're taking what you've learned, and it's part of the steps, it's part of the work, if you read, to give back, because every time you give back, it strengthens your sobriety and your recovery
Yeah.
too, because um you're now responsible. You're now holding yourself to a higher standard, because you have to set the example. You can't be like that, those guys that I was talking about that went to the meetings, and then I'm going to the liquor store to get beer and I bump into them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, so what you're doing is service work. That's pretty much what we're doing right here. This is service work,
Yeah.
and that's different than just um being somebody who's just
Taking a seat.
chasing the meetings,
Yeah.
and yeah, and for the wrong reason.
Mm.
Skylar, um, you got to be careful with the old heads, because like the old heads are stubborn and they're stuck in their ways. They're old school and it worked for them back in the day, and they swear by it, and they don't mean any harm, but um they can use definitive speech. And I talk about not using definitive speech when it comes to recovery quite often because nothing is yes or no,
Right.
nothing is guaranteed, nothing is definite. So I don't try to use definitive speech when I talk about recovery because
Nothing's
there is
black
no
and
yes
white.
or no, there is no right or wrong answer, there is no magic wand or none
Yeah.
of that shit. But a lot of the old heads, they don't operate like that. You know, they're back in my day, and I know it all, and I've been through it all, and I'll tell you what you need to do. They don't mean any harm.
Good.
I think they're just trying to help you.
Yeah,
You
that's what
know,
I was just gonna say.
but you don't have to go to meetings. You know, every day. You know, you don't have to be there with the old head with a cup of coffee at 7 a.m. to keep your sobriety.
Yeah.
It's not necessary for everybody.
Tammy, I was just about to say that it you said it keeps it fresh for me to see the newcomers. And that's another thing too I was gonna point out is that, I don't deal with as many newcomers as I would like to. I'm really hoping this year I would like to be able to go into the local jails and see if I can talk to the women in there. Because I want to be able to help the newcomer. I want to be able to show them that there's life outside of drug use because I feel like I know for me, when I was in that active cycle, I couldn't see anything else. So, like I said, I don't see as many newcomers, but I have a few reach out from time to time, and that helps. And it also takes me back, to what I was like when I was new in recovery. So,
And this, I like this. I like this platform a little bit better because, like what Paul's
hold
saying
on.
right there is because it's different. You know what I mean? We don't have guidelines. We don't have,
Rules,
we don't do the
regulations.
plan. We
Yeah,
keep coming back. We do our own thing. We just kind of, like Carl says, we kind of just freestyle and just kind of do our own thing. And you don't have to show up to the group, and we're not going to catch you outside and talk a bunch of shit about such and such while we're smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee before the meeting. You're not going to get none of that. Just cut the bullshit and get right to what we need to talk about.
yeah. I also like it because in like meetings that you go to, you can't smoke inside of the meeting, and I can smoke whenever I feel like it.
I mean, Jewel, if you can't go an hour without a cigarette, you need some
No,
help.
but sometimes when I'm talking, it's just like a part of me. You know what I mean? Like I'm having a conversation with somebody or I'm talking about something that's like a lot to me. I like to have a cigarette. I mean, you're sitting there vaping the whole
I,
time. It's no different. You could probably vape inside of the meeting.
I was going to say if I'm sitting in a place that I can't smoke, I don't like flip out about it. That's not a reason. That's not why I don't go.
I'm not
That's not why I
saying
like
I'm not
not going to.
saying that's not well, I'm not saying that's why I don't go. I'm just saying that that's a piece of this that I like, that I can be me, I can do what I want, I can be myself. I don't have to worry about what the three people sitting next to me are gonna say because the car's empty. Okay? Smarty pants. Look now.
I'm just busting your balls.
I've been going back and forth with your wife this morning because I'm really nervous about her flying. Okay? Really nervous.
It'll be all right. I've flown
I'm not
before.
worried about
You
you
got a better chance
flying. I'm
of
worried
going
about
in the car.
her. I'm worried about her and the little one going first.
I mean, you got a better chance dying in a car accident riding up the
I'm
street
not
to the store
worried.
than you
I'm
do
not worried about the
crashing a
flight,
plane.
Joe. I'm worried about the getting on and getting off thing because your wife doesn't prepare for anything like this. That's what I'm worried about.
No,
And she's like, I can't be bothered with this today. It's forever away. I'm like, bitch, it's in 2 weeks. Like, let's talk about it now.
right.
Let's get a plan together. So in 2 weeks, we're not like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
She'll have her plan together 2 hours before we got to go to the airport.
And she said to me, it was so funny because she said that she didn't want to bother her sister with it because she's already worried. And I'm like, she's worried because she knows you're not worried. She knows you're not coming up with a fucking plan. That's why she's worried. So, either way, I would really rather her leave her with you, but I know that's going to be a lot for you for a couple weeks. So,
that defeats the purpose. The reason why I'm staying back is because I have people to train. So how the hell am I going to train somebody if I got Leanna tagging along?
I mean, what am I, a mile from where you train people at? I mean, I'm chopped liver now.
Yeah, but then I got to do all the shit. I gotta get Leanna ready for the plane and all that crap. I'd rather her deal with it.
Yeah, well, I knew that, but I'm just saying. So,
But to keep just to keep it, in perspective, Skylar, you don't have to your recovery is your recovery. You don't have to abide by what somebody else says. And oh, as you see in the recovery groups, people will get offended from time to time
yeah,
by your opinions or what you think. Um, it's there's no need in getting offended because somebody doesn't agree with you or
right.
you think differently than someone, and don't think just because somebody's older than you and has more clean time or sober time that they have some sort of seniority over you and that their way is the magic way and you can only get clean their way. You know what I'm saying? So don't worry about it. Take what you need and just leave the rest.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
A lot of people, disagree with me on a lot of things because, I can come off brash sometimes, but it's just because I believe in what I stand for and I believe in, what I think works. And just because I think it works and it's working for me doesn't mean it's going to work for the next person. It's just, my opinion.
can you read that?
Why, why do you hold that book up like I can see that
Can
shit,
you
yo? I
read it?
can't I can't see.
You can't see what it says?
Yeah, I can see it and I can read backwards too, Jewel. Did you think about that?
No. Tomorrow is how does it work? I mean, you just said about how it works, so that's why I was showing you. But
I mean, you could have just said it. You holding the book up like I can read
well, I
backwards.
didn't think about it being backwards, okay? Didn't think about that. So, okay, Joanne.
And we talked about because it talks about family a lot on today's Just for Today. We talked about that over the holidays. Everybody was sweating over the holidays. Not everybody, but a lot of people,
Yeah.
because it's the holidays, and for some reason, even though we use drugs or drink alcohol Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, in the middle of June, in the middle of August, when there wasn't nothing going on, but all of a sudden, because it's the holiday, oh my God, like that was like the National Do Drugs Day and Drink Alcohol Day. Like,
Right. It's
no,
like it was mandatory.
it's just when the other people who are social drinkers tend to drink because they don't drink every day or every other day or like we do
Yeah.
or do drugs or whatever it is, whatever your twist
I have
is.
to say though,
But
I seen a lot of New Year's posts from people that are social drinkers, and I'm just like, I mean, do you realize what you guys look like? Like take those pictures down. Don't post those on Facebook.
I mean, it's fun to let go and cut loose if you're mature and you can handle it, but we're not those type of people.
Yeah.
And we all know both sides of the fence. I mean, most of us. We all were in a party phase at one point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It became a problem over time. It didn't start out that way
Right.
for most of us. But like we tell you, you're never gonna get that part back.
And don't test it. Please don't test it.
You're never gonna get that party phase back. That shit was gone. When it was over for good.
Yeah. I don't really have much
And think
else.
about it. And think about it from like, it's talking about family now, and I talked about during the holidays on Christmas Eve. I talked about how take this time that you're clean and sober to spend with family or, spend with your kids or actually be present and not be half lit or half fucked up because, that's how you've always been.
Yeah.
Take advantage. You know what I'm saying? You've already missed out on so much shit. Why are you gonna you're missing the point. You're missing what life is all about. Life's about your family, your friends, and yourself. And when you were drinking and using drugs, you weren't about none of that shit. You weren't about your family. You weren't about yourself. You know, you were just, a slave to whatever it was that you were doing
Yeah.
or using. And that you were selfish, but you were selfish, to the drugs or the alcohol. You weren't selfish to, being all about you. It stopped being about you a long time ago. And that's why when you get clean and sober, you got to take advantage of, what you have at your, what you have now, what you can do now, the different things you can do. I used to talk to my mom about it. Um, the last time she was locked up, I was talking to her about it. And, she was talking that change of life shit. Cause, when somebody gets locked up, they always talk that good talk because they're sober and clean in there and
You
they
have nothing
realize
but
like,
time.
right. And they're thinking clearly for the first time in a long time. And they're also realizing, I don't like being here. This is dumb.
Right.
I don't like being locked up. And so I was telling her, it's like you're not gonna miss out on anything.
Yeah.
You've been doing this half your life. What are you looking for? Like what you're not gonna miss nothing and it's not gonna ever change. You're not gonna find anything new out there that you didn't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I mean, don't you just wanna and I told her, at your age, don't you just wanna relax? Don't you just wanna sit and watch movies and eat good food and
Yeah.
spend time with your grandkids, your kids, and that's so much better.
I couldn't, your brother says to me often, well, not as much now, but he used to say to me all the time, but he used to say to me that I would do a lot of things like your mom, like my dumbass errands that he doesn't feel are necessary and, going to the store every day for this thing or that thing or whatever. Um, but I think I always thought a lot about your mom, about how, I mean, at her age, all the ripping and running that she was still doing, I just couldn't imagine doing that, even being almost half her age. I just couldn't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, she would. I mean, I remember, when I went to school and she first got, bad off, and she would run for a week straight, no sleep, no food, and then she come down, eat a whole pot of hamburger helper, and sleep for 3 days, and then go right back to it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what kind of fucking life is that, man?
Yeah. Mm.
Walking around in my 6X t-shirts, you know what I mean? Like, no shoes. When she moved to Salisbury, um, I was coming up here to visit her every once in a while just to check on her. And she was homeless at the time, or she was breaking into vacant apartments and squatting until she got figured out and got kicked out. And I remember meeting her up here one time at the liquor store, and I seen her at the liquor store, and I hadn't seen her for a little while, and I didn't even recognize her. I mean, my mom's like probably 5'10", 5'11", and I know she was probably 130 pounds, maybe.
Yeah.
And she had on overalls, denim overalls, and no shoes.
Mm.
In the middle of Salisbury, no shoes and denim overalls. That's it.
The picture,
And an
there's
undershirt.
a picture of her.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's a picture of her holding Leanna when Leanna was like probably not even a month old. And your mom's almost as small as Leanna in that picture. Like I have never seen her that little ever in my life, except for, and I didn't.
When she lived in town, she was wearing my mom's jeans. She could fit in my mom's jeans. And she's like 6 inches taller than my grandmother.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was skinny.
At my smallest point in my addiction, all I know is that I could wear a medium from Victoria's Secrets. And their clothes are cut small, so that tells you how much smaller I was. Welcome back, Tony. Stay longer this time. I don't know how much clean time you had before, but stay longer.
And I'm gonna tell you what, living in Salisbury is it's a pretty good reality check because when you're sober and you're riding around town and the homeless population here is pretty big, especially compared to where I grew up at.
Yeah.
Where I grew up at, there might have been 5 homeless people at the
Do they
max.
even have a homeless shelter in
And
King County?
maybe, I don't know,
Mm,
the church might help them out,
yeah.
but there wasn't many. I remember three that I grew up around that I knew that were always
Right.
homeless. And living in Salisbury, seeing all and I worked at the homeless shelter for a while, and I volunteered there for like 2 years, and being there, seeing the same faces all the time, seeing women pull up in a car with all their possessions and their
Mm-hmm.
kids, and seeing women with babies, in a stroller on the corner at Wawa's, asking for money all day, um, in the cold. It's like that kind of shit is like a wake up call. That shit'll keep you sober. Fuck you. You talking about going to a meeting? Fuck a meeting. All you gotta do is ride around and watch them for a few minutes.
Yeah. There's a couple.
You think about like how they live and think about like that's what you miss. You know what I'm saying? You miss that.
There's a couple around here, and every time I see them a lot at the library, and every time I see them, she's basically carrying him because he's so torn up, and she can't barely walk herself. And I think to myself, like, aren't you tired of this? And we like sometimes we'll see him laying on the sidewalk, like out by rural farms, or yesterday they were getting across the highway, and I thought, Lord help them, I hope they get across safely, because I just can't even imagine. Like, and I think to myself all the time, like, what did I look like to other people? You know what I mean? Because I always felt like I had it together. Like I always felt, because I always drove, I've always had a car, always had license. Um, as far as that stuff goes, that's always, like I said to Josh, we were talking one day, and he's like, "Oh, you'd have rode in a car with me." I never rode illegal. You know what I mean? My car was always tagged, insured, everything was always legal. So I never had that aspect to worry about. But I just think all the time, like, what did I look like to other people? You know what I mean? I just can't imagine. Can't imagine.
For me, like, I mean, being an alcoholic, it's a little bit different because it'll destroy your body and break you down the same way, but it's more of a slow kill.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It breaks you down. It takes a lot longer to break you down. Um, which is why, people that compare one to the other or brush off, alcoholism, it's like, man, you have no idea. It's like, you can get wrapped up in that shit so long because it takes so long for you to lose control.
Yeah.
And it's so socially acceptable.
Because it's
Um, I
illegal.
can't go to the I can't go to the Super Bowl party and pull out a needle in front of my friends or my
Yeah.
homeboys or people I associate with, and like they're going,
Like,
not gonna fuck with me,
fuck are you doing? Right.
But because I drank, it's like everybody did, and it was like normal for at least one or two people at the functions to get really, really tore up, and I just was always one of those people.
Yeah.
And after a while, it's like, man, you get tired of being a clown. You get tired of blacking out and your friends having to tell you all the stupid shit you did, and you know what I mean. It's just
Yeah.
um don't get tricked by that. Don't think because like if alcohol is your problem, don't think just because it's okay to drink that it's okay for you.
Right. So
I've got more out of my life in my 18 months sober than I've gotten for a long time, for over 10 years.
yeah. Well, it's really all I got, Joe. I sent messages to all my vendors for my March into Recovery event this morning, and I gotta get these websites done. I have so many to finish. So it's distracting me because I keep sitting here thinking of all this crap I have to do. And the house needs to be cleaned. It's driving me nuts. I'm like OCD about it. So, do you have anything else to add?
Nope.
Tomorrow we're gonna go live when you're here.
Yep.
And tomorrow is how does this work? How does it work? For those who may be interested, I know that we only have a few people still watching, which is fine. Thanks for hanging out with us. Feel free to send us friend requests, and you can also click the get notified so you get notified when we go live. And I think that's it for today. So we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, y'all.
See ya.